we had a tool shed on wheels, and there it was. So churches, schools, communities can check out our toolberry. We keep enough tools on it for 30 people to be actively engaged. We also have hand tools, lawnmowers, tiller, weed whacker, some larger item tools that can be used. And as well as like gloves, and then books. That's the other thing too, because sometimes you might have someone who wants to participate, but maybe they're not able-bodied where they can dig. Well, there's plenty of things they can do. They can be the person passing out stuff for the toolberry. They can be looking at books, looking for new ideas. So we try to make sure that everybody has a way to participate. Everybody can be engaged in this a garden installation. And we're here. Maybe. Maybe. Yay. Okay. So we were super excited. We kind of went over this. Who can use it? Reduces installation costs. Having enough tools for 30 people. We kind of did all that. So we used the bulk of our mini grant to actually purchase the trailer. And from there, it was collaboration and working with our partners and then leveraging our funds.
This here actually, so things go wrong a lot, and
go with the flow.
Go with the flow. And the graphics vendor who was doing the graphics for it that you saw on the very first slide didn't come through in time for us to get a photograph of it to present to you today. So we had a work group come through, and Kate got them to take a magic or dry erase marker.
So the original slide that you saw with the carrot rake, that's the actual decal that's going on the toolberry. But yeah, so that's something. Go with the flow is a good thing to remember when you're doing any project or grant. So part of getting donations in kind, we host tool drives. This is great because we are in an area with a lot of senior citizens, and sometimes they've come to a point in their life where they're not gardening anymore, yet they have these wonderful tool sheds full of tools. So we collect unused tools, people who want to bring new tools, and a lot of times that's an exciting thing for families to do because maybe they can't afford to donate a large sum, but they can donate a good shovel. So the kids get to come be a part of creating the toolberry. So that's been really great, as well as books. Lots of gardening books. Maybe someone's already read a book. They don't need it anymore. We put it on the toolberry. And then people give cash donations. So this came through a variety of forms that Ken, I think, will talk about in a little bit. But even in the purchasing of tools, we try to involve community members taking those funds and getting kids or other community members to come with us to shop. So that's, again, like every opportunity to engage the community so that they feel an investment in this, because that's going to be the long-term sustainability of this is if the community sees it as an asset. A lot of work went into the designing of the inside of the toolberry. This is kind of a boring picture, but I wanted to just show it because I think our carpenter, we have floor anchors everywhere because you have to think when you're driving, those tools are going to be shifting around, so everything's anchored. You might have went past the shovel. The shovel right there, yeah. This was this system has worked really well for us. These little latches so that the tools don't go flying and it's easily operable for little hands. Yeah, so anchors everywhere, that's all I can say. Yeah, and there's our little library. We rotate books, or I can stack more books depending on where we're going. And this is just a little fellow from the neighborhood who was showing some of the stuff. But this is where Ken will take over, explaining numbers and things you guys
only to say that we spent almost half the money on getting the trailer. And one thing I would recommend if you have these kinds of things, this is really important. One of our board members is on the board of the Ogilvy Foundation. Ogilvy is the only self-sustaining park in America. And the way they do that is they set up investment accounts so that they can take care of their maintenance going forward. So we thought it would be smart for us to retain some amount because shovels are going to break, the wheel bearings are going to need to be repacked, things are going to happen down the road, and we don't want to have to go out and try to fundraise to repack our wheel bearings or something like that. It's not as sexy as going out and raising money for Toolberry. Just a quick slide on leveraging. It's really true that you get a little bit of money and you go to get more money with that money. Funders really like to fund specific things. They like to say, oh, we need tools, or we need wheelbarrows, or whatever it is. We need graphics on the side, as opposed to saying, here's our budget and we need money. It's really, really helpful to be talking about tangible, specific things, even though that doesn't always represent the reality of what you're trying to do. These are thoughts on success. It's a little bit of a wall of text. I'm going to do it quickly. Are we doing okay on time? 2 minutes, perfect. Get clear on what you're trying to accomplish. Have a really clear statement of what it is that you're trying to do. And think about, how are you going to measure success? How are you going to know it's successful? For us, we have a specific number. We want a certain amount of tools on the Toolberry. We want to do a certain amount of events. We want a certain amount of community engagement. So just be real clear about that. Funders want to know, how do you know if you're a success? That might change through time, and that's fine also, but you have to have a good idea going in. Be clear on your budget and where can you save money. Always save money. I'll jump ahead to, well, I won't jump ahead because I only have 2 minutes. Assemble every partner who has a stake in you being successful. Parenthetically, that you can work with. Don't take partners that don't like you, or that you don't like, or that just make you feel uneasy for any reason. But on the other hand, anybody who has a stake in your success, get them involved in what you're doing. One great thing about the Try This grant is you get a mentor, and I really want to encourage you to lean on your mentor as much as possible. Do they know what you need? Keep them in the loop a lot. We had a great mentor, Andy Pence, and it was a really big help having his thoughts involved and just getting him excited about what we're doing also. Do things right. Don't cut corners and do things when you're doing things. Use the best quality that you possibly can, because you don't want to create maintenance for yourself or more work down the road. This has come up many times, I know, through this conference. Take a little bit of money and make it into more money. And I put, are you telling a good story? Funders like stories. Everybody likes stories. The whole thing is stories. Are you telling a good story? Make sure that you are. If you're not, tell a different story. Develop relationships with your funders. No investor ever invests in a company or a project. They always invest in people. Make sure they know you. Make sure they feel your passion, and make sure that they know something about what you're trying to do and what is success. And then the second to last, because I forgot one thing, I forgot 2 things. Once you get the money in, rethink, how can I save cash? Do I really need to spend this money that I raised money for 10 wheelbarrows? Now I have the money for 10 wheelbarrows. Do I really need to spend all this money on 10 wheelbarrows? Maybe I can cut corners. Maybe I can get 5 wheelbarrows donated from Lowe's, and then buy 5, and then go back to my funder and say, hey, we got an in-kind donation. Can we reallocate some of the money you gave us for wheelbarrows? That happens all the time. And that leads into the second thing, which is keep your funders informed. If you have to change your game plan, that's fine. It's the reality. It happens all the time. But make sure they know what you're doing and how it's different. And there was one final point. Oh my God, what was it? It was probably the meaning to life or something. Well, just to say, keep the funders, keep them apprised of what you're doing. Oh, do what you say you're going to do. Okay? And with the caveat that if things change, tell the funder that things change. It happens to us all the time. The whole nonprofit world is aware of this. If you raise money to do one thing and then you're like, oh, we don't really want to do that thing anymore, but we need to do this other thing, don't do that other thing until you bring the funder in the loop. And just, if they know you and you already have a relationship, that's not a big problem. Again, that's a reality. It happens all the time. Just keep the funders informed. Sorry it wasn't the meaning of life, but nonetheless, hopefully helpful. Yes, and here's Kate's contact. My email is ken@growov.org if you want to be in contact with us. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So for this next portion, I'm going to actually direct the questions that are in the program to each individual. Elaborate on these questions that I've posed in that portion. So to start off with, I want to ask, I'll go backwards from the program actually. With the Pop Club, what did this project lead to, and what do you see as sort of the next step for the future of the Pop Club in your community or abroad?
Well, let's see. One thing for sure is that I know that the Clarksburg Farmers Market is starting a pop club, and I've heard of other farmers markets kind of having been exposed to the model and you know, feeling like they can do it themselves. So it's certainly something that's spreading, but that's going to be happening in other places. You know, I feel in a lot of ways a lot more prepared to execute it the second year after having done it the first year. So in terms of moving forward, our hope is to find a consistent community collaborator so that it is so that there is somebody who sponsors it every year, like some business in the community, so everybody knows that this is a thing that's going to happen every year and this is our support because it's so great for the kids. A big thing that I hope that all pop clubs in West Virginia do is really collaborate with DHHR and SNAP recipients so they can use that free children's program to increase SNAP participation in markets. That's my hope for the future, is that it grows that aspect of farmers market participation.
Great. Debbie, did you have anything to add to that? All right, so the next question will be for Gabe, and this is, what roadblocks did you come across, or barriers, and how did you overcome that?
We had a small issue with one of our teachers didn't get along very well with the head of the cafeteria staff. And I didn't know that going into this. She was trying to sell her lettuce at some point in the future, and she poo-pooed her lettuce, and she was offended. And it's like, well, I need y'all to work together to coordinate getting food scraps. I was going to do like a peer mediation session where they talked it out, but I'm like, look, just I kind of had a stern talking with both of them. I need y'all to work on this. I need you both to work on this for this program to work. Please just kind of work together on it. But that worked itself out, thankfully. But I think it just kind of speaks to the planning part of it. You know, go talk to everybody beforehand, all the partners you're going to work with, and you know, make sure if they have any questions, any concerns, before you start investing, working on, breaking ground on any projects, to make sure that it's going to work according to plan. One other one that I've run into as of late, the Farm to School program, which I've been singing their praises, and it's great. It's a great program. In Fayette County, they built our gardens, they built all of our infrastructure for this project to be possible. They're pulling out. They don't want to do that type of a program anymore. So it's like we have all these gardens, we have all this investment, and now you're just going to leave it alone. So now we have to kind of rethink things and figure out how we're going to continue doing the project-based learning that is so valuable in places like Fayette County, because I feel like that's the direction that education has to go for our middle schoolers, for our elementary kids. There's great value there, and I hate to see them just abandon it, but we're just going to have to find more partners who are willing to step up and pick up where they left off.
Great, thank you. The next question is for Terry, and it is, how did you engage volunteers and keep them coming back?
How do I engage volunteers? You know, we use a lot of social media for that, but I find that stuff is kind of contagious. Especially if it's in a small town and you're going anywhere and they have to go past you to get somewhere else. And the fact that everything is in one location helps, because you've got the daycare parents, you've got people coming to the library, you've got guests going up on the mountain that want to bring their grandchildren down there. You've got all the farmers market right there. So everybody's got a little bit of different interest, but they're all right there together. So they all kind of work together. It really hasn't been much of a problem, because we paid all the things we've done and constructed. I mean, of course, we had to pay for the pavilion to be constructed, but the gardens and the fencing and the playground and all that, we did strictly volunteers.
Great.
And they like seeing results.
The election results, and in a small town, that can be a pro and a con of getting volunteers.
Yeah.
So as you saw this project bring the community together.
Right.
Great. The last question is for Kate and Ken, and it is, how did you involve your community, or maybe talk about how you were able to get the tools donated or find the sites that needed the tools?
Well, one way we knew who needed tools was we had done a garden in every school contest, so we already have a list of schools that we know want gardens. We also have a mobile market, and we look at-risk communities or food desert communities. So we know the communities that also don't have access to food, which then logically would say this would be a good community to have a garden in. And then different organizations hearing about the stuff we're doing, then often we're approached as well. So I would say it's a little bit through our own efforts, but those efforts are contagious. And then people, we probably are now getting more requests than we can possibly fill in a year, which, you know, maybe there someday will be another toolberry, so that we can have 2 toolberries out. And then I think it's very interesting is like, once you get that momentum going and that energy built, it almost becomes organic, and it starts kind of defining itself, or new projects start arising, you know, because now we have people saying, well, are you going to ever have a toolberry where personal, just individuals can check out tools? So then other needs start becoming identified through that momentum and that energy. But a lot of times it's social media, word of mouth, goodwill of people. We also piggyback on other events. So there's an event in our area called Food, Health, and Hope Day that Sisters of St. Joseph do. And it was a free thing. It was free to come to it, but they did a free will donation, and all the donation for that went to the toolberry. So sometimes looking at other events and like piggybacking on that, the tool drives or the book drives, people want to do that, and it's manageable. That's a manageable way that a lot of people can be involved. And then through that, you sometimes have that one person who has more resources that says, hey, you know what, I can write you a $1,000 check. One of the community foundation, we weren't expecting that. They heard from all the energy in the community about the toolberry. They had 2 interns. The interns wanted to come over and see what we were doing. They saw what we were doing. They got so excited, they went back to their foundation and said, hey, can we give them money? Like, wow, that's really cool. So sometimes, like, it's not, we didn't even ask. It was just, we told a good story. We involve people. And I think expressing how it's going to be beneficial to your community is always the key. So.
Do you think that?
Sorry.
All right, at this point, we're going to open it up in about 15 minutes. We are back on schedule with the program, so we have about 15 minutes for question and answer from you all. Keep them short, and if you can, project your voices when you ask the questions. And if you can direct them to the whole panel or individuals. Yes.
For the toolberry, talk about how you handle liability. So should someone get hurt, do they sign a waiver?
Yes, that was one of our, that was one of the things. Yeah, so that had to, and this is the reason why we haven't created a personal toolberry yet. Because we did have to sit down and talk about how we were going to handle risk and waivers. So, and right now the reason why we either go with it, the toolberry, to like a school site where it would be covered under the school or under us because we're with it, or if it's to an organization, yeah, they sign a liability waiver when they check it out, and that organization then becomes responsible for it during its checkout time. So that was something that we definitely had to look at. We looked at, there are some other types of toolberry situations out there in America, and we looked at several different styles of addressing that, and then made one that we thought worked for us. On the personal tool berry, we haven't worked all the kinks out of that yet, and that's been one of the delays in having a program like that.
I think even with a waiver, though, you're not, you know, you can get a liability waiver, but if something happens, you're still going to be, if someone wants to sue you, they're going to sue you. So it doesn't, just having a liability waiver doesn't make you safe in a kind of way. So we have comprehensive liability insurance, and we have a very good insurance guy in town, and we just, next week I'll be touring all of our facilities with him, just saying, this is what's changed from last year, how are we doing? And it's just a constant vigilance that you have to keep. You know, if you don't have liability insurance, I think I would probably recommend getting it, even though it's, you know,
I
it
didn't
is.
see it on your budget, so that's what made me think that.
Yeah, no, it's because we have a lot of other activities going on, we already have a comprehensive liability policy, and there wasn't an additional expense associated with it.
No, it was a good question, the umbrella under.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have greenhouses and a pond and farming operations and lots of other stuff.
Interns everywhere.
Interns, yeah, interns. Love them.
All right, question in the front?
Yes, when it comes to writing the grant, I don't care who answers really, but you talk a lot about telling your story. A lot of times I feel like in writing the grant, it asks specific questions, and so you kind of lay out what your funding you're looking for, what purpose you're going to use it for. But I still feel like at the end of the grant, but that really doesn't come across the point on the excitement that I have for it. How do you feel that you can fit in some of those key points when you don't feel it asks those specific questions?
I just think in the narrative piece.
Just really.
We really just pounded them with the information, and it could be emotional. I mean, we answered all of the questions, but just really put your heart in it. Just, that's what your passion is, and just, you know, put it in the narrative piece, and include pictures if you have any, just as much as you can get in, even if it's from the heart. Yeah.
And I think that in this grant in particular, because they do ask for letters of support, I think those are really key. If you can find other people that have also expressed their interest in what you're doing and that they'll support you too, just kind of let know that the community also is on board with what you're doing.
So these mini grants are an excellent way to kind of wade into grant writing. They kind of walk you through the process of how to build your program and bring your partners in. And they may mention this, I forget where I learned this acronym, but when it comes to your goals for your project, the acronym is SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Specific, measurable, attainable, replicable, and timely. And so you want to have specific goals. We're going to engage 50 students and 2 teachers at New River Elementary. We're going to engage X many volunteers, and you know, if you're able to lay those out, you can really go to the funders and say, look, how many people we are planning to hit up. And then when it comes to actually doing the project, when you do events, when you are out there working on your project, keep track of how many volunteers you engage or put to work. Because every volunteer hour is $23.07, according to United States volunteer, I forget, but you can put a value on that. And then also just the amount of people you engage in general and say, that, look, how many people my project has touched in it.
We keep a volunteer login sheet, like at the community garden, which is protected. It's in a little shed. And we ask everybody, if you came down and worked on your personal plot, that's not a community volunteer. But we also have like plots of corn, plots of potatoes, plots of this and that for anybody. But you have to log in your community hours, and that helps when you go write your grant.
I would emphasize pictures. You know, humans process visual information so much faster than reading, and it's really emotional seeing a picture. I would say edit a lot. Take out all of the unnecessary words. If you're using strings of prepositional phrases, you know, go back a day later, or 2 days later, or a week later, and take them all out so that just the kernel of what you're talking about is really there, and that'll convey a lot. And then one way to kind of jam the system is with a cover letter, and just put a cover letter where you're, you know, brief and talking about why this is important to you, because even though it's not part of the application, probably 8 times out of 10 it's going to get stapled to the back of your application, and it's still going to get processed by the reviewers. So that's, I mean, it's not exactly cheating, but it's, you know, jamming the system a little bit, I guess.
But no one on our team had ever filled out a grant application before, and it seemed like it was this huge cloud coming over. But try this. I mean, it is a great entree into the grant application world. Step by step by step, the mentor was there to help. So it's not as daunting as you think.
Just give yourself time.
Yeah.
You gotta have it. It's,
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it's really all planning.
That's true.
It's just all, it's mostly, grant writing is mostly planning. Just planning your project and then putting it down on paper.
We have a question right here, and then you can be next.
Just a quick semantics question. Has use of the term pop ever produced any undesired results. Pop, soda, it depends upon region and colloquial usage or what you're describing.
Well, I try to be clear that it stands for the power of produce and that it's an acronym, but yeah, people have brought it up, but I actually feel like we're reclaiming the word, and I'm excited that people challenge it, because I think we should reclaim it and make it something positive.
Dr. Jeffrey would adore that.
One that's not even involved, read it to see if it makes sense, because sometimes you have your ideas and you think, you know, you're putting it down, but a lot of times the funders have a committee and they know nothing about your project, and they're gonna look at it and see if they think it's worthwhile or not. So having, you know, lots of partners, as you mentioned, you know, helping with that grant and pass it around on the language and the grammar and all that kind of thing too.
Any other questions? Right here.
You mentioned about mentors.
Mhm.
How does that work? How does that process work?
Yes, each of our mini grant sites will receive a helper that helps them throughout the process. So if anyone wants to answer that question about the helper, I know you mentioned Andy already.
When does, I mean, does that occur now this afternoon, or does that occur ongoing, or how does that work?
Once, if your grant is, if you receive the grant, it would happen at that point.
Oh, so it's after you receive it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, or somebody would help you.
You
And
can
they
call
help you through the
like,
Yes,
you
and
can
if-
call
yeah.
in. I called in, like, when we were writing our grant, I had a couple of questions
Yeah.
on some things, like, some people we were applying to be collaborators with, but I hadn't heard back. So I had questions, so I called Steven, I called
Yes.
this office, and they were very helpful.
Yeah, try this. I mean, we have the mini grant applications up for months for you all with our information on them that we encourage questions. You can send us drafts of it. You can, you know, talk, you know, brainstorm with us because we're here to help you. That's why we have you come to the conference. We have the session this afternoon. So we want to help you make it the best possible proposal it can be.
I recommend,
16th, right?
June 16th is the due date for the mini grant applications.
I just, to add on, I recommend always doing that with every grant, is call the grantor and the funder with your questions or whatever's not clear, because again, you want a relationship, you want a personal relationship with that person. And if that person gets to know you during the process of the development of your grant, when it hits the desk, they're gonna already know you and something about you. And that's really, really important, as opposed to, maybe I don't have any questions and it just arrives. It's a different feel for the person. I mean, flip it around and put yourself in that person's shoes. They have a deluge of stuff to read. It's like, oh, you know, a stack of grants like this. And if I know you when I'm reading that grant, I'm gonna have a much different read on that than if it's just another one coming in.
And really, again, I think you touched on, you know, using plain talk. Try this is not about fancy language, because, you know, and you mentioned letting other people read it. You know, does this make sense? We don't look for, you know, a collegiate, you know, we know that you're fledgling, you know, mini grants, or maybe this is your first grant. Talk plain, and also talking about reaching out to try this are things maybe you hadn't thought of before, or maybe we can, you know, say, well, you thought about this, or maybe this is a partner. You're looking for your third team member or more people with letters of support. Look, we're the tribe. We know people. We can connect you. That's also what this conference is all about as well. There's a hand up over here.
Is it okay to package some small projects together into one grant? Anybody do that?
Yeah, I think,
Just
are you meaning like?
Little things we want to do together, just do it as one as opposed to separate little grants.
I would say if it's if you can tell a story around it and
Yeah.
here's,
Make
focus
it
on the
interesting.
thread, you know,
Yeah.
this is the thread that pulls these things together and why. I mean, it seems like I would do something like that. I would.
Yeah, absolutely. If they all fit together, if it's sort of the overall project, but it's several pieces of it, yes.
And I think there was a morning, in the first morning session, there was someone who kind of presented that way, where they had broken up their grant to purchase this, and then they did this project and this project, but it had that common thread that kind of linked them together.
The first year I wrote the grant for the grill, I didn't tie that together as to what that grill meant. Well, to me, it meant building a community, because we're going to involve the kids, we're going to involve the farmers market, we're going to involve the parents picking up their kids, and then hopefully they'll stay around and socialize and communicate and have healthy eating. So just asking for a grill didn't get it. So you do have to find that thread. What does that mean to you? You see it in your head. You know why you want it in Linwood and what it looks like and what you're going to do with it. But until you tie it together, they can't see it.
I think it's also very important to remember that Try This is about building healthy communities. And I'm assuming everybody's project has something to tie in with that, so remember that throughout the application process.
Yeah, I think that's a great point also in general for any funder is what does the funder care about? And in terms of your story, how does your story relate to what that funder cares about? Super important.
And one thing you'll also see on the application is it talks a lot about long-term planning. These grants are to fund sustainable long-term projects, not one-time events. So think about, this project is for this year and what that could lead to, but also think about the big picture down the line, creating the healthier community. So definitely think of the big picture along the way.
How do they score this menu that we have to fill out that talks about where we're at on projects? I mean, how does that fall into how they approve the grant or not?
Actually, it's not necessarily scored. If you see like how the key is, it's not so much one of those that then you fill up, 1, 2, and 3 had a 5 change in your community. One thing that's amazing about Try This, I'm sure all of you can agree, is you're here talking to strangers and you're meeting, people from Wheeling, people from Pocahontas, etc. But so many people at Try This meet people from their own community that they've never met. So it's so important to reach out, find those people that you have that common thread with. We want to get healthier, find them, connect them, and the more letters of support, the better. From bottom up, top down.
I would translate that as a grant writer as saying, in my story that I'm telling, to demonstrate the awareness about the healthiness of your community that came through doing that. So it's one thing to fill it out and send it in, but it's another thing to say, hey, our community's health is somewhat deficient in this area. It was revealed through doing this that we're at this spot. So you can include that in the story that you're telling.
Yes, we're here.
I have a question for Gabe. I might not have picked up on this when you discussed it, but what happens with the compost after it's created?
Well, so it goes in.
Oh, yeah.
But I work with that's why I decided to
It's quite a modern use though, and it's the only one growing off in the state.
Yeah.
It's always awkward.
Try this. Today we have several of our team leaders from different MiniGrants from this past cycle. They're standouts in different ways, but they all also represent very diverse projects that we have. I want to start off by introducing Athena Friedlander and Debbie Workman with the Bridgeport Farmers Market Pop Club program, which allows kids to interact and engage with the farmers market in a very creative way. Next, we have Gabriel Pena from the Fayette Vermiculture program, which he engages local students in vermiculture. Don't call it a worm farm, he'll get upset. Again, very interesting, very diverse. Next, we have Terry White from the Linwood Alive group, which they engage their local child care center in gardening and creating opportunities for fresh local food in creative ways. And lastly, we have Kate Marshall and Kim Peralta from the Grow Ohio Valley Toolbrary, which gives community members, local groups, schools, churches, opportunities to garden and create gardening opportunities without supplies. They supply it with a Toolbrary van trailer. So each of them are going to introduce their projects. We're giving them about 7 to 10 minutes with their PowerPoints to just kind of give a general overview. I'll have some questions and then we'll open up to the floor. Many of you, I'm assuming, will be applying for a grant this year, and I'm sure you'll be asking lots of questions. I can help as well as them. All right, so we'll get started with the POP program.
I just want to give you a brief history of the Bridgeport Farmers Market and how we got to where we are with the Pop Club. We started in July of '09 with 6 vendors, and this year we opened our 8th season with over 55, maybe 60 that are affiliated with the market. And of course, our main mission is to bring local healthy food to our community in Bridgeport. So all of our farmers, artisans, bakers, all either grow, produce, or make their product within the state. As we've grown, we've tried to bring in more activities to draw more people to the market, such as our weekly Sunday brunch, our chef's demonstrations, our local musicians set up each week. And we looked for a long time for sustainable children's activity, and we came across the Pop Club. So that's what we're here to talk about today, and Athena is going to explain the Pop Club to you.
Hi, I'm Athena Friedlander. I'm a board member at the Bridgeport Farmers Market, and I actually, we had discussed in a meeting that we were looking for a kids program that we could use every year. And I came across an article that the Farmers Market Coalition posted about this thing called a Pop Club for kids. And it originated in Oregon at the Oregon City Farmers Market in 2011. And the woman who started it, I mean, it's become a movement all across the country now. So, you know, the tools for creating one are pretty open source. But obviously we needed to fund it. So the Pop Club, what it is kids come up to the Pop tent and they sign what's called a passport to health. And so we sign up with their name and all their information, and they get their passport stamped, and then they get $2 in tokens. That's those yellow tokens they have there. So they get their passport stamped any market they come to, and they get $2 to spend on any fresh produce. So the only rules around that money is that it has to be fresh vegetables or fresh fruit, and all of the vendors accept the tokens, and they turn the tokens in for cash. So, you know, it's a wonderful way to get the kids to be involved in farmers market commerce, to get them talking to farmers, to it's been proven also that kids are much more likely to make healthy eating choices if they can kind of choose it themselves. It empowers them to make their own choices when choosing vegetables and fruits. And the wonderful thing about it too is all of that money goes right back to all the local farmers. So that's also paired with weekly activities. Like we have volunteers that came every week and did different nutrition-based activities. This one, she had them make nibble trays where they put, oh, that's one of our farmers. She's doing a seed saving activity to teach kids about saving seeds. The activities are based around food growing, nutrition, you know, seed planting, anything to do with learning about where your food comes from and what to do with fresh produce. So in terms of the Try This mini grant, we obviously needed something to fund the program, and so a lot of it was about collaboration with other people in the community. I immediately went to WVU and sought out an intern so that I had somebody to help me execute the program for this summer. And then I partnered with the WVU School of Public Health, and I had a full-time intern for the summer who got college credit for working on the Pop Club, but she also helped us do a lot of the work for the Try This mini grant, because there is some paperwork involved, a lot of data keeping, you know, forms that need to be submitted and things like that. We also reached out to a lot of people in the community. I know that part of the mini grant process is to get letters of support. So we reached out to as many people in our community as we could to get those letters of support, and we were really happy to have quite a few of those. But you know, our original goal for the Pop Club was 200 kids, and by the end we had 326, I believe. Possibly more, kind of lost track at the end. But it was great, it was wonderful, and I'm starting it again this year. It starts officially tomorrow, and we already have 150 kids signed up, and it hasn't even started yet. So yeah, that's the Pop Club, the Bridgeport Farmers Market.
What days and hours do you do that?
Sundays from 10 to 2. Yeah. And so we're there all day, and the kids can come up, and they can spend them that day, or they can save their tokens. And some families would come, and all the siblings would pool their money and buy kind of bigger ticket items. You can also buy vegetable plants. That's the other stipulation. I mean, they did try to buy cupcakes, and we had to kind of, bring it in. We kind of learned that in the beginning. so we opened it to vegetable plants as well. So yeah. That's the Pop Club.
How did you sign up the kids, or how are you doing that now, signing them up?
So I just had a form that had their name, their age, and their parent's signature and email, and so it was just a preliminary sign up. And so I've gone and filled out all the passports for them. So when it starts tomorrow, all their information will already be on hand, and they'll just come up.
They came through the market or something?
What's that? They came to the market. Like I've been there every week since our opening day, just preliminarily signing kids up to kind of get a gauge of like how much interaction we're going to have this year. So.
When was your opening day?
May
15th.
15th?
Yeah.
May 15th?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Goes through October 9th.
What all's in the passport?
So I wish I would have brought one. I should have brought one as an example. So it's the kids, it's their name, their age, a signature from their parents, and then there's basically a calendar on the back that just has all of the dates of the summer so that we stamp it. So we have a little strawberry stamp, so we stamp each date. It's mostly just a calendar and then their information.
And then one more question till the end. If
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. Next up, we can go to Gabe if you can get ready. Thank you, Pop Club.
So I'm employed by the Fayette County Commission, and part of my responsibilities with the commission is working as a staff member for the Fayette County Solid Waste Authority. And one of the first things I did whenever I started working for the Solid Waste Authority was dig into their 2013 Comprehensive Solid Waste and Litter Control Plan. And in that, one of their priorities was to increase educational programming with public schools. So I went to check out some of the farm-to-school gardens at the schools that were already built. They had been in operation for like 5 years, and it was kind of funny because it was right next to an old recycling bin that the Solid Waste Authority had purchased. Thank you. Had purchased with a grant, and the grant would run out, and now you have these bins that weren't being used. It's like, well, here's your old educational program. Let's build a new one, because it's like we could go for funding to try to get this up and running again, or we could build something that has some actual value to what the kids are already doing. So that's really kind of the idea for the vermicomposting. People are doing it all over the country. This isn't anything new. It's just, we saw opportunity to tailor it to Fayette County, and I applied for $1,000 as a pilot project. It was the Fayette County Compost Pilot Project. $1,000 was enough to build 5 bins. It's less than $200 per bin. We got the wood donated from a local lumber mill. The chair of the Solid Waste Authority recommended that I ask him to donate the lumber, and he did. And that was about $600 alone in the lumber. So let's see here.
Arrow down.
So yeah, so one of the first things I started doing was going to talk to administrators at the schools where I was going to be to let them know, hey, I'm going to be rooting around your garden, and I might be, over here with saws and whatnot. And so this is Valley Elementary. They weren't written into our grant initially, but they caught wind of what we were doing, and their principal, Mrs. Harrow, was like, I want one of these at my school. I want a garden, and I want one of these. So we went to building at her site right away because she was so enthusiastic about it. And some of my volunteers showed up. They'd never used a circular saw before, so I got to teach them how to use a circular saw properly. The construction of these bins, you've seen them over outside of the cafeteria. It's a simple 4x4 box. There's really nothing to it. It's a glorified box. And the hardest part of this was, so we dug it down. I have some literature that tells you about different models throughout the country. We went with the model where we set the bins a foot down into the ground to keep the worms warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And so that's the most labor-intensive part. Everything outside of that is basic carpentry. So in the future, if I do this again, I'm going to get a hold of the Votech and have them build it, because my highest purpose isn't out there building bins it's getting funding to continue doing this type of stuff. So those are the bins that we built over at Valley Elementary. And then I got the kids over at Valley High School. This is the environmental science and biology classes out there building their bins over there. So here's the demonstration that I do for the kids to show them, you know, I ask them which soil do you think is better? And, you know, that's a good opportunity to talk about soil nutrients and what plants need to grow. We did it right after Thanksgiving, so we were, the material we were throwing in the bins was all pumpkins, and that was a lot of fun having the kids break those up for us. So that's kind of the whole setup. You can see that one's set down in the ground a foot, so that's a 4 foot tall system that's set down in the ground. So moving forward, I'd like to expand this to more campuses. And I'm kind of insistent on not calling it vermicomposting, just calling it Fayette compost, because essentially we're doing it, this is a feasibility study for any institution that has a cafeteria has food waste. And so there's an opportunity for hospitals, for schools, for, again, any institution that has a cafeteria. We could potentially be taking their waste and building a commodity. So at some point in the future, I would like to see the Fayette County Solid Waste Authority implement industrial composting system, because our regional development authority has identified agriculture as an economic opportunity, as a transition economy. So again, if we are serious about agriculture in our county, then we need to be serious about creating inputs, and that's an opportunity for Solid Waste Authority to contribute to that. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Will you get mine?
Yeah,
It's a WVU.
it's on here.
I don't know.
It's a WV law.
Yeah.
Next. Terry White with Linwood.
Should say, yeah. You do it, that's fine. No, this is extension. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Terry White. I'm from Linwood. Linwood is a small, and I mean really, really small community at the bottom of Snowshoe Mountain. When we first moved there, we noticed we would make friends and they all kept leaving, and it took a while to figure out why. Well, we had no childcare, we had no school, we had no playground, we had no pavilion, we had no garden, we had nothing. So 4 years ago, some people got together and approached the county about doing a library in a building that Snowshoe had abandoned. They had moved all their check-ins to the top of the hill, and there was this beautiful building set at the bottom that was huge. So a bunch of people got together and we got a library started, and part of that. Well, a year later, we said, we're losing all our families. Why don't we start a child care? So we started a nonprofit daycare. Well, that grew. We got hooked up with Keys for Healthy Kids, and try this. We came to the first try this, and we got our MiniGrant process started. And okay.
Is it all individual pictures?
Yeah, just roll them there. They can just see what we've done. And we teamed up with Laura Dice and David Hill and did a natural playground. We used our money to leverage our funds. We went to Snowshoe. Snowshoe has a foundation, and we said, look at the improvements we've made to your property. So we were able to use that because we never paid anybody to do any labor. So we've been able to leverage every grant.
I don't know, something. Just keep talking.
Okay. Leverage every grant we've received. Last year, Linwood Alive, which is another nonprofit we have, we've been working for 2.5 years to secure funds from the county commission, foundations, fundraisers, individual donors to do the pavilion for our farmers market, which is adjacent to our playground and also adjacent to the daycare. So on this one big beautiful piece of property, we have a daycare, a library, a farmers market, a playground, and a pavilion, where 4 years ago there was absolutely nothing there. Year before last, I wrote a grant for a grill, a commercial grill. And well, Try This wasn't buying it, they just, they didn't see the reason, and obviously I didn't explain it well enough. So last year I was determined, I probably wrote the best grant that Stephen has ever seen, because I had my statistics, my figures, and everything. So we wrote the grant for the grill and we received it. We haven't used the grill yet. The pavilion took longer than we thought. This is our building, this is our library. Our kids, our daycare kids are on one side. Our daycare kids, we have a yoga instructor come into the library and do yoga with them. That's part of their natural playground. That's part of their snap pea tunnel. The kids, there they are planting cucumbers. That's when we have bad weather, which occasionally it's snowshoe, we have bad weather. They can play inside the library and use that. We had the first pre-K ski team in the state. There's the kids eating their vegetables. There they are riding, and they are planting. There's their TP tunnel. That was part of our first Try This mini grant, was developing the natural playground. Those kids raised those carrots. This is our community garden. That's another thing we've been able to leverage. We got a Grow Appalachia grant. I don't know if you all heard Michael Tierney talk, but Grow Appalachia is about putting foods in the hands of the people who need them, and that's our community garden. That's the cucumber tunnel. Our little kids, that's the pavilion we built, and our little kids take their vegetables to the farmer's market, and believe you me, a kid can get a lot more money out of a cucumber than that's a Jenny Cotton special. She came out and made stuff with the kids one day. Okay, this is another grant we've been able to leverage. That's the Snowshoe Foundation. They have what's called Treasure on the Mountain in August, and it's huge. They sell 5,000 tickets, and you can sign up to be a vendor if you're a nonprofit. For 3 years, the daycare's made 1,000 kebabs and sold them to the foundation, and we made $3,000 by doing that. And also, the tickets we sell, the tickets are $100. So for every organization that sells a ticket, you get $10 of the ticket. The daycare raised $900 last year just selling foundation tickets. There's our pavilion. Last year, to celebrate the pavilion opening, we did a farm-to-table dinner under the pavilion. Again, we sold tickets for the food. All the food would come out of the gardens, and we made $3,000. There's the kids. But every grant we've written, every grant we've written, we have been able to say, like, to Snowshoe, we want to improve your property. We're going to do it. We're going to find $2,500 over here. Will you match it? Or we put a $3,000 commercial grill under a pavilion that you own. Will you give us money for the gravel to put under the pavilion? So that's how you leverage your funds. You just go to them and say, well, so-and-so gave me this. Will you give me some to match it? And the best story I have, 1 minute, we have a homeowner who lives in North Carolina but has a condo at Snowshoe, and he has a foundation. And he stopped me one day and he said, why are you doing all this? And I said, well, because it's a beautiful place to live. I want people to be able to stay here. And he wrote me a check for $5,000. That's all I got. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't break the heart.
Start talking, Kate.
Well, I'm Kate, and this is Ken from Grohire Valley. We talked a little bit about this at the first morning conference, but the Toolbury came to us because we are always trying to address food access issues with our nonprofit. And one of the things that we started to find that it wasn't just having a space or having seeds or plants that was the deterrent and getting a lot of gardens put into communities or schools. Often it was the cost of the tools, because the initial cost, I mean, can be very expensive. And then you really only need that many tools, maybe at the first site installation, and maybe if you're doing another project down the road. And then in between, you don't need all those tools, so it's almost a waste of resources to use your funding to buy all those shovels for that site installation day. Or the other scenario was, there was no money for tools. We would have 1 or 2 shovels, and then we'd have all these workers show up, and they would stand around and wait for their turn with the shovel.